Courtney Cox here, and it's time for The Dish. We're a quarter of the way through this MLB season, so we're going to break things down. We're going to talk about the Red Sox. We're going to talk about the AL, the NL. We're going to talk about some hot topics. So buckle up, and let's get this thing rolling. I'm joined now by Darren Hartwell, and it's time to do the MLB quarter season review. We've got Darren here, who's such an expert, so we brought in the best, really. We're going to start with the American League. I want to know, in your opinion, what the biggest, most surprising development has been so far this season.
I got to go with the play of the Yankees. I think a lot of people thought they'd be good in a pretty short time. They have a lot of great prospects. I don't think people thought they'd be good this early. They're in first place right now in the AL East, 10 games above 500. You have guys like Aaron Judge, who's been mashing balls, and Luis Severino, who's been a really good pitcher for them. So I think they're kind of really ahead of schedule in the rebuild, and that's been the biggest surprise in the AL, I think. All
right, so Yankees in the AL, and whenever we talk about AL, we got to talk about NL. So now it's time for the National League. Most surprising development so far in the NL?
I'm looking at the NL Central. It's kind of been a little flip-flop. You look at the Brewers, who are on top of the division behind a really good offense. You have Eric Thames, who is a legend in Korea. He comes over and he's still hitting homers in America. They're in first place right now. In the Cubs, the defending World Series champs, just one game over 500. They're kind of scuffling a little bit. They may turn things around, but right now the Brewers ahead of the Cubs by a decent margin. That's a pretty big surprise to me.
All right, well, you talk about the Cubs right there. So now I want to ask you kind of an interesting question. Obviously, the Cubs and the Indians faced off in the World Series last season. When you look at these two teams in the 2017 season, who is more likely to miss the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough question. I'd probably say they're both going to be all right in the long term, but if I had to pick one, I'm going with the Indians. I think the Cubs just have too much talent to really scuffle this long, and they're only a few games out, so I think they'll be fine. The Indians also, they should be all right, but there's a little bit of uncertainty in that rotation. Corey Kluber's still injured right now. A few guys, they're kind of patching it together a little bit, so if the injuries start to pile up and the hitting continues to be a little flaky, then who knows? But again, they're in a weak division too. The Twins are in first place right now.
And here at NESN, we do this fun little thing called MVP of the quarter. So we're going to do that here. We're going to do AL and NL. I want to know, in Darren's mind, who are the MVPs of the quarter so far?
Well, I think the best player in the AL has been Mike Trout, but he's kind of like the Tom Brady or LeBron James of the sport. He's always the best player. So I'm gonna mix it up a little bit and go for my underdog kind of MVP pick in the AL. Aaron Judge. I think he's been one of the big reasons why the Yankees are where they are. 15 homers to lead all of baseball. And then in the National League, I think it's a pretty clear choice. Ryan Zimmerman he's kind of cooled off recently, but I think he's still a cut above the rest of the National League hitters, hitting .362, 13 homers, 38 RBIs. Nationals are in first place, so I think you kind of can't go wrong. I don't know if he keeps that up, but we're just talking MVP of the quarter, so I think he's got it.
Exactly. Great stuff from Darren, as always. And now we're going to send it to our friends Ricky Doyle and Mike Cole, who are going to play a little game called MLB True or False.
All right, Mike, Darren hit on some of the big storylines so far in MLB. I'd like to get into some specifics, though, going into some specific teams here, playing a game of MLB True or False. You down for that?
I can do that.
All right. Well, let's start off with the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good. Good season so far. But let me ask you this. True or false? They are the best team in baseball right now at the record of the season.
They've been a wagon so far, but I'm going to go with false. I like them a lot, and I still think they're probably the best team in the American League. But for the best team in all of baseball, I'm taking the Washington Nationals. I still love that Nationals team, and I think you look at that roster, even without Adam Eaton, you've got arguably the best player in the game in Bryce Harper. You've got arguably the best pitcher in the game in Max Scherzer. And it's just, top to bottom, we've talked about it before, how much we like that roster. I just think ultimately they're a hair above the Astros, but I still think the Astros are really good.
Yeah, I like the Astros. I think maybe I'm higher on them than most. I mean, even dating back to before the season. I just think that, I love that lineup. I think it has a lot of balance to it. You got legitimate stars in Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa. Correa coming around now. I think Alex Bregman's only going to get better as the season goes on. So I like their offensive depth. I also think that their rotation is going to hold up so long as Dallas Keuchel comes back from that injury. That scares me a little bit, but I still give them the edge. I also like that bullpen, Chris Stefanski, a little bit of a weapon there. Let's move it over to the National League, though. True or false, 3 teams from the National League West will make the playoffs this season.
This one's a tough one. I'm going to go with false, though, because it has nothing to do with those National League West teams. I really like what all those teams have done.
High on them.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the Dodgers are a team that could, we just got done talking about the Nationals. Dodgers are a team that can make a case for being the best team in baseball when it's all said and done. But so I think they're going to be there when the dust settles. But those other two teams, the Rockies and the Diamondbacks, I think one of those teams kind of comes back to the earth. But this has more to do about the Cubs than anything else. I think the Cubs eventually figure it out. They get hot. One game over 500 at the time of doing this. I think they've got a good run in them. They get back into it. If the Cubs get in, that means one of those other teams can't. The NL East is a joke, so they've got a chance, but I still think the Cubs get hot.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to say false as well, that I think two teams make it from the West. I think, like you said, that Central is the reason why. I even think the Cardinals could potentially get back in there. They got the pitching to do it. And I just think in the West, they're just going to end up beating up on each other for the most part. So 3 good teams, obviously. A 4th if the Giants ever figure it out. So it's going to be competitive, but I agree. I think that you're probably going to get 2 teams from the Central. Last but not least, true or false, the Milwaukee Brewers. It's time to start taking them seriously. Speaking of the Central.
I'm going to go false on this. I like this Brewers team. They're fun. The Eric Thames story is obviously great, but I think it starts with him. You look at the fact that through the first 20 games of the season, he hit 11 home runs. In the last 19, 20 games, he's hit 2 home runs. Teams are starting to figure out how to pitch to him. And Ryan Braun just coming out from an injury. If he can't get 140, 150 games, you talk about Travis Shaw. Nice season so far, but we saw here in Boston how streaky he can be. I'm just not sure how much depth they have, both in terms of their starting lineup and in their starting rotation in the bullpen. I just don't see how it's sustainable for them.
I'm with you. Big fat false. That's all you're going to get from me because I agree with basically everything you said. That team, not the real deal. Nice little start, adorable little story, but I don't think they have the staying power. All right, we're going to send it back to Courtney, who's sticking around with Sam to talk a little Red Sox baseball.
Thanks so much, Ricky. Now I've got my girl Sam Galanis in studio. She knows everything about the Red Sox. So we're going to break down quarter season review Red Sox. Just Red Sox. We don't need to talk about any other teams, really. But I want to talk about they've been hovering around 500 all season so far. On a scale from 1 to 10, you in particular, how nervous are you about this squad?
I'm going to go with a 5, right in the middle, because right now there are a lot of teams in the AL hovering around 500. So they're actually not that, they're only 1 game behind out of a wild card spot right now, which obviously will change by September. But as of right now, there's no reason to think that they can't continue to get better, but there is definitely some concern lingering as we're getting a lot closer to the midseason point right now.
And like you said, it's pretty early. So when you look at how we're getting closer to the midseason and then, after the midseason when you should really worry, who's got to step up to really bring the Red Sox to the next level?
I think Rick Porcello, for one, has to step up. He just hasn't had that same control that he had last season, that every time he went to the mound, the Red Sox could win behind him. He needs that spark. He doesn't necessarily have to put up Cy Young numbers again to do that, but it's really important for the Red Sox to be solid in their rotation right now.
Well, you look at the Orioles and the Yankees. I said we were just going to talk about the Red Sox, but let's throw in 2 of the most hated teams in Red Sox Nation. Orioles and Yankees are ahead of them in the standings. Who's more of a threat when you look at Boston?
That's a really interesting case right now because they're kind of on the same level. They both have rotations that aren't that great and lineups that are really good. When it comes to who might get better rotation-wise, the Yankees have Masahiro Tanaka underperforming, and the Orioles have Wade Miley overperforming. So I think that will balance out, and that the Yankees will probably be a bigger threat. But if you ask me on the next episode, I might change my mind because it's really close right now.
All right, well, great stuff from Sam as always, and now we're going to toss it to Darren for Fantasyland as promised.
Welcome back to Fantasyland. I'm Darren Hartwell, and as always, we're going to help you guys out this week by checking out the waiver wire to find 3 players owned in less than 50% of Yahoo leagues who are worth picking up. The first guy I like is Cubs prospect Ian Happ. Happ is just 22 years old, but has been crushing it in the cleanup spot for the Cubs, batting .357 with 2 homers and 5 RBIs since being called up 10 days ago. It looks like Happ is here to stay, so he's a great long-term add who also has bonus eligibility at second base. Second on my list is Nationals reliever Coda Glover, or should we say Nationals closer Coda Glover. Glover earned a 4-out save against the Braves on Sunday and now boasts a 2.77 ERA and 1.08 WHIP. He always seemed like the long-term option at closer for Washington, and it looks like he's finally realizing that potential. My last pick is Indian starter Mike Clevenger, who has a haircut like Jacob deGrom and has also pitched like him of late. Clevenger threw 7 shutout innings against the Astros this weekend and appears to have locked down a spot in Cleveland's rotation, so he's worthy of adding to your arsenal. That's it from Fantasyland. Let's send it back up to Ricky and Courtney for some MLB Hot Topics.
Thanks so much, Darren. Now I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend,
Wow.
Ricky Doyle.
That's wow. All right.
And it's time to talk MLB Hot Topics. And we've got a few pretty spectacular ones.
I'd say so.
Yeah, we got to start off with Aaron Judge. And at Yankee Stadium, the fans have a little cheering section going called the Judge's Chambers.
Yeah.
So I want to know your opinion on that. My opinion is that it should just be a singular chamber.
Well, yeah.
The Judge's Chamber.
I know that's a hill that you're willing to die
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
I think it's cool, I guess.
Oh.
I'm Ron Burgundy. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's like the concept's okay. I'm all right with it, but these things it just gets to a point. Like if it happens organically and then takes off from there, and then people show up to the game with the robes on.
Well, how do you know that it
That's
didn't
cool.
happen organically?
Well, I mean, from what I've read, from what I understand here, it started with some guys wearing robes and wigs or whatever, and then the Yankees took it over, and now they're picking people from their seats and putting them in this particular section,
Yeah.
that's when it gets a little hokey to me. And they give you a robe that they take back at the end of the game. I mean, it's cool if it gets to a point where you stick a little league team out there, or some sort of charity group or something. I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, but if you grab some Wall Street investor who just happens to have number 99 across his back and put him up there, I don't know.
The Cubs and Brewers had themselves quite a little dance-off during a rain delay. And maybe they, Dancing with the Stars, they've got Sir Ross, if you will, on that.
Yeah, David Ross is killing it.
But do you have any other guys that you think, I feel he was good, but he wasn't great. I think David Ortiz would be amazing on Dancing with the Stars.
I was going to suggest Ortiz because, I mean, especially now with him being retired, he probably needs something to do. I'm just not sure if his...
He probably needs some money.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm sure about that. But I don't know if his Achilles tendon's going to hold up. I mean, he's battling some leg issues there at the end, so...
And lastly, we've talked a lot during the dish about how we're a quarter of the way through the season.
Yep.
In your mind, you're all about entertainment value.
Clearly.
Yeah. So how entertaining has this season been for you across the board?
I can give it a C.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. There are some cool storylines, I guess. The whole Yankees thing, them actually being pretty good with some young kids is good. I like the NL West. They get some, it's pretty wide open out there, but I don't know. The average time of games going up, that's obviously trending in the wrong direction, and it's just, I don't know. I guess until the NBA and NHL playoffs are done with it, my brain's kind of scrambled there. I'm all over the place, and then I'll sink my teeth into it. But it leaves a little bit to desired. But so I'll give it a C. It's not bad. It's not a bad score.
Right. Yeah. No, it's average.
Yeah. It's been average so far.
All right. Well, that's the hot topics so far this season in the eyes of Sir Ricky Doyle.
Yeah. Well,
man, myth, legend. You liked that?
Maybe I can come up with a section for myself too.
Yes.
Do it in the corner of the studio.
That's what we'll do. Yeah. Perfect.
You can keep your robes too. I'm not gonna take those back.
I wouldn't give mine back. All right. Well, that will do it for this episode of The Dish. Ricky Doyle, the guy. We're gonna close this one out right here. I'm Courtney Cox for Ricky Doyle. Thanks for tuning in.